had a quick overnight celebration and been back hard at it. We got a big challenge in front of us this November. We need to keep folks fired up and excited about this race. I've told many people this race is going to be about the soul of our state and the direction that we want to go. So we want to keep being a business-friendly state. So we want to have a governor that's going to focus on all parts of our state, no matter what your zip code is, and make sure that everyone has the same opportunities. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, so we got to keep working.
Well, I think the reason you took Wayne County so well, you've been here many times, Dave, for Wayne. I tell people, I got to know Brian over the last several years. You come every year, and you're an advocate for South Georgia, which a lot of people in this area are happy to, that you're in this race. And I know if you do win, you're going to look after this part of the state.
Well, and it's not just South Georgia, it's all of rural Georgia. I've talked many times about traveling to all 159 counties, so we've got a great working relationship with the election superintendents, probate judges, and county registrars, election board members, many other people that we deal with every day in the Secretary of State's office, whether, it's the local business people, filing corporations, hard-working Georgians that need a professional license. Just all of those type things, and I understand. I think the state's better than anyone else. I think that's one reason I did so well in the primary and the runoff, quite honestly, is because I've traveled to many of those counties, rarely sleeping in a hotel room, normally staying with friends on the road that I've met, and that's the best way to learn about the community, what the issues are, like lack of access to high-speed internet, concerns over the economy, education, health care, all the things that matter to families as they sit across the kitchen table from one another. And I'm experiencing those same things as a father and a husband myself. We have 3 teenage daughters. I'm concerned about public safety, keeping my family safe, and we had plans to go after that. Hardly anyone was talking about that in the race. I think that's one of the reasons the president endorsed me, is because he's going to be tough on criminal illegals and illegal immigration, but also making sure that we're going after and stopping and dismantling gangs in our state. We have federal prosecutors that talk about Georgia has become a hub to the Mexican drug cartel. That's just outrageous to think about. It's affecting all areas of our state. So we need a governor that's going to give opportunities to, our kids and our grandkids, from employment opportunities, good education, so we have a great workforce, but also economic opportunities. But none of that's possible if we're not safe and have a good environment to live, work, and raise our families.
And if you just joining us, GOP nominee Brian Kemp on the phone with us, running for governor of the state of Georgia. You and Casey Cagle had a pretty much heated race. The governor, I saw, quickly endorsed you. Says the Republican Party has to unite. Have you reached out to him, or has he reached out to you? Is Cagle going to throw all his support your way, or how's that going?
Oh, yeah, he's already done that. The night of the election, he had a great concession speech, congratulated us, had a good conversation with him on the phone, pledged his full support. Him and his team have been great, giving us whatever we need to be helpful, and we certainly appreciate that. We're urging his supporters to come our way. I think everyone, including myself, had the roles been reversed, would have done the exact same thing, because we know how important this election is. Look, I have an opponent in this fall election that's being funded from the radical left, and from California, New York, Massachusetts, just national money flowing into this race because of her views and radical policies. And that is just not going to be good for Georgia. It's not going to be good to carry our environment that we have forward, and also, quite honestly, spread it to other parts of our state, which is why I'm focused so much on making Georgia number one for small business. And certainly a big part of that is agriculture and timber, which I know drives a lot of the economy down that way. I'm involved in that in the private sector, in both of those. I understand it. I understand the great opportunities that we have, but also understand the challenges that we're facing right now with workforce issues in agriculture and forestry, but also with, where commodity prices are, and the tough issues that we're facing, not only as a state, but as a country. But with all that being said, also know that we have great opportunities if we have a governor that will focus on that, work with the local leaders, the local farmers, the local agribusiness folks, the forestry industry, to move the needle and keep moving Georgia in the right direction.
And you must have foreseen my next question, because I was saying the national and statewide Democratic Party is going to throw millions of dollars into your opponent's campaign. When you watch some of the national newscasts, this election seems to be of much interest. Many talking heads actually saying they believe that Abrams going to win this race in turn. It's been a Republican state for governor many years into a blue state. So what's your thoughts when you see and read comments like that?
Well, it keeps us on our toes, that's for sure. I can guarantee you and your listeners this: we are taking nothing for granted in this race. It is going to be a hard-fought race. It's a national race. It's going to be the most watched race in the country, because it's really not only a referendum on 2018, but a preview of what's coming in 2020. I think that's one reason the president and the vice president is so concerned and also so focused on Georgia. They're not taking it for granted either. And that's why I need everyone's help. You know, we cannot be asleep at the wheel this fall. We need to start working now to be registering like-minded voters that are going to get out and vote for a true conservative that's a business guy that wants to help your family and keep them safe, and really say no to radical policies that, quite honestly, they're going to be trying to push in, under a different administration, that, things that New York and California are embracing. And that's just not what we need in Georgia. It's not what our values are. And that's what we got to fight and work against. And I think our folks will. People are really fired up for this election. But I would urge people to go to KempForGovernor.com to sign up, to volunteer, ask for a yard sign. I mean, just any, give us a financial contribution, just anything anybody can do, and however they can do it, we need their help.
During the primary, you had a bus tour. How about now? Are you going to have another bus tour come this way again, or what's the schedule?
Well, we are working on the schedule now. Thankfully, we've had many requests on fundraising events, grassroots opportunities. But I had built my campaign on being the best retail politician that has been running in this cycle. I think that's another reason I was so successful on, on both elections that we had, in the primary and the runoff. I had to go back for a debate the last time our bus tour came through. But I had the secret Kemp weapons on the ground for me in Wayne County. My wife and 3 daughters were there on that bus stop, and I think people, they probably like them more than they like me. So the whole Kemp family's all in. I'm sure that we're going to be back rolling through that way at least once, if not several times. We need that part of the state to turn out for us and turn out big, and we'll look forward to being back in the area.
What do you know about your opponent? Tell us about her. And like I said, she won her primary, or she won her race. She didn't have a runoff primary, but she beat Stacey Evans pretty easily. But what do you know about Stacey Abrams? What should we know about her?
Well, very articulate, smart lady. The problem is she's a radical liberal. Her views are very different than mine. She wants to throw more money at failing government programs. She's going to have to raise taxes to be able to pay for that. That is not what we need in our next governor. We need more free market opportunities. We need to unlock the private sector and use innovation to drive down healthcare costs, provide better education. We don't need, more government mandates and big government policies under a Democratic administration. We need somebody that is going to remove testing from our schools and the workload that our teachers are facing and the burdens that are on our students. We need to put education more in the hands of the locals and their parents. And then we also need to figure out ways to be innovative in those areas and take off some of the mandates and get rid of things like Common Core, where we can simply let local teachers teach the local children. I believe that they know better than state government and better than the federal government on how to do that. Not to say that the state doesn't have a role. There's certainly a big role, but I just want people to know that I'm going to be a governor that, number one, is going to work with the locals to give them more control to teach our children and educate our workforce. And that goes for K through 12, technical education and higher education as well. But you're also going to have a governor that's going to be a good listener, that will not just try to say, hey, we have all the answers from high zone, but listen to what's really happening on the ground. And I think I have a good understanding of that because it's just like the elections offices that I've worked with. You know, I've been to almost all 159 county election offices in our state or either courthouses where the probate judges are doing that. I've met with them. I've seen their facilities. I know that they're all different. They have to treat their community different in the way that they hold elections. And it's the same thing with our schools. You know, you're teaching in different environments depending on what community. The workforce needs of that community are different from area to area and from county to county. And I understand that, and that's why we need a governor that's going to actually listen and be a problem solver instead of somebody that's just going to mandate, you know, across-the-board policies that have not helped move the needle.
I imagine the turnout in November will be a lot better than it was a couple of Tuesdays ago, but explain to me, you know, your reason or your opinion, and we're perplexed all the time. You had the race for governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state on the Republican ballot, race for school superintendent on the Democratic ballot, but yet the turnout was so low across the state. Why are people not involved in the process? What's the issue there?
Well, that's a good question. It's hard for me to fathom that in this environment in our country that people aren't more engaged in the political process, but it's just a fact that we're dealing with. You have to deal with the electorate that is plugged in, and you know, I do think obviously the turnout in the fall is going to be much higher than it was in the primary and in the primary runoff. But I think that's something that, you know, I'd really like to challenge our supporters, those that didn't get engaged, to really look at this race, because I can tell you the radicals are going to be turning out because they want to change the values of our state. They want to change the direction in which we're going. And, you know, that's why people need to pay attention, get engaged, get educated on the issues. We're glad to, you know, point them to our website where we have detailed policies on different reforms, whether it's education, adoption, you know, transportation, strengthening rural Georgia, all these things, public safety reform, all these things that we've been talking about and I've been talking about, and get engaged. And if you have other ideas for us, you know, pass those along. We're listening to people every day. It's one reason I spent so much time on the ground on our bus tour and then on other trips across our state, not just, you know, telling people what I'm going to do, but also listening to their concerns and to their community.
It's a big state, you know, a lot of issues. If you become governor, is there one or two things that you'd like to see implemented? You know, like you said, did the hands-free law this past session, you know, there's always legislation that's passed, but there's something, if you become governor, that you'll be in the forefront pushing, make sure it passes.
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to continue to drive the issues that I've been talking about for literally 15 months now, and that's my conservative 4-point plan to make Georgia #1 for small business by taking that chainsaw that's been so prevalent in our campaign ads with Jake and I and just cut government regulations. You know, we've seen at the federal level that the president has done that. It has just got our economy on fire. I think there's more we can do at the state level. I also think that, you know, the second part of my plan is reforming how state government spends taxes and operates so that we truly fund the things that we need to be doing in state government properly, like education, public safety, health care, transportation, and things of that nature. But then we can continue to have real tax reform in our state by lowering the state income tax rate. I think there's more that we can do. It will make us more competitive with the states that are around us. I think we can do a lot to control government spending. That's why I've talked about implementing a spending cap. And that is completely different from the tack that my opponent will have. They will want to grow government, spend more money, and they'll have to raise taxes to pay for that. So I think that's a big issue. You know, I've spent a lot of time talking already. I have this morning about strengthening rural Georgia. We've got a detailed plan to do that, doing things like providing an environment and working with people to get high-speed internet run to all parts of our state. You know, we should not be a state that has 25% of our areas that don't have access to internet. It's holding us back in education, economic development, workforce development, and even in agriculture and forestry as well. And so I will focus on that, and we've got a plan to do that. And the last thing is to have a governor that's going to put Georgians first. You know, that's what the whole campaign was based on. It was what our bus tour was named. It's about, having someone that's going to be fighting for you out there ahead of the special interest, the status quo, and the politically correct. And I think that's what people are looking for. I think that's why we did so well in Wayne County and the surrounding areas, because people in your part of the state, they ask me that question all the time when I come down there. Who's really up there fighting for us? Who's fighting for us down here? We feel like we've been forgotten. We feel like nobody's focusing on the issues that we're facing in our area. And I think it's why so many people like the sheriff and the mayor and the county commissioners and a lot of hardworking Georgians have embraced and supported my campaign so hard and worked so hard, is they know that I mean that and that I'm going to work for that and that I'm going to implement plans to stop and dismantle gangs and to go after, the Mexican drug cartel is here. But I'm also going to be working with them on workforce issues regarding agriculture and forestry that are affecting our farms and farm labor.
Money's tight everywhere, Brian, and Butch and I are, you oversee the election process, and we talked about the 3-week early voting, how much it cost counties like Wayne and Applin and Pierce and Long. It's really tight on their budget, especially when the turnout's as low as it is. Is there any way, if you become governor, you can help push it to maybe just 2 weeks of early voting?
Well, I don't really know if that was why with the legislature. It used to be 6 weeks, and we had a bipartisan bill to reduce it down to 3 weeks. So I know some of the smaller counties still complain about that, but there's a lot of the bigger counties that actually need the 3 weeks to move people through that helps them. So that's kind of a tough issue to deal with. But that being said, I think there are ways that you can continue to look at reducing costs on elections, especially in runoff and special elections where the same requirements apply across the board. And that's something that I think that will be a bipartisan debate that we could have, not taking away opportunities that people would have in elections, but looking at ways that we could be more efficient and try to save some resources at the county level in very low turnout rates.
Well, the day for Wayne here in Wayne County is going to be like maybe days after the election. So they want me to ask you, if you win the race for governor, will you still come today for Wayne as the governor?
Is it going to be after? I was thinking it was before.
I think the election is November 2nd. I think the day for Wayne is like that week, like maybe 3 days after.
Well, I think the election's November 6th. So the day for Wayne was right before.
You may know more than I do then. Maybe you'll be here.
I can promise you day for Wayne is on my radar. Probably one of the biggest appointments I had in the campaign was because of scheduling conflicts. I couldn't be at Day of Wayne last year, but we're going to make all efforts to be there this year. That is a great event. I've participated several times and have had a lot of fun doing it and seen a lot of good folks and learned a lot. And I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to work it out to be back.
Oh, that sounds great. Again, Brian, I know you're a busy man, and again, we appreciate you being on the show before the primary. We appreciate you being here today. Hopefully we'll have you on there a couple of times between now and November. You're always welcome, and again, it's been great to get to know you at those Day for Wayne events the last several years. And if you have the bus tour, you make it this way, hopefully you'll be able to be on the bus like the last time you missed it due to conflict with the debate. But we got to meet your wife and kids, so be glad to see you in town on that bus. And you're always welcome to Wayne County, always welcome here on the Butch and Bob Show, and appreciate you being our guest today.
Well, thanks, guys. Look forward to getting back, and I want to thank everybody for taking such good care of Marty and the girls. They have not done a whole lot of public speaking, and they put themselves out there, and they felt really comfortable in Wayne County with the good folks that were taking care of them. So I'm very grateful to you all in the community and that. We'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, Brian, good luck.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks again.
Big Dog Country Radio, WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup, the Republican candidate for the governor of the state of Georgia, Brian Kemp, our special guest this morning here on the world-famous Butch and Bob Show on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup. And Bob, once again, I'd like to thank the Republican candidate, Secretary of State there, Brian Kemp, to be our special guest this morning.
Yeah, like I said, we had him before the primary. Like I said, I'm sure we'll have him between now and November several times, but we do appreciate him calling in. I'm sure he's a very busy man after he won that nomination, but took 76.8% of the Wayne County vote. So
that's pretty good
Wayne County people. So but he took almost 70% of the statewide vote, which was amazing. But like you said, he had the momentum, and once the president endorsed him and had Vice President Mike Pence come to Macon, just seemed to, as he said, add fuel to the fire.
Right. Somebody had texted in, but I didn't want to break into your interview there with Brian Kemp. Somebody wanted us to ask Brian if he's going to let the guy on the TV break in.
He said he was growing on him, so maybe.
Yeah. But you got the two candidates, the Democratic candidate, the Republican candidate. It's going to be going at it between now and November 6th. And if Dave Wayne is on the first Thursday in November, that would be November 1st.
Okay.
And then the election on the 6th. If it's I think it's always on the first Thursday in November.
Right, maybe he'll be here before the date.
Before
the election.
Yeah. The election on the 6th, and if I remember correctly, Dave Wayne is always on the first Thursday in November at the Clanton River Ranch, and so that would be several days beforehand. Okay. Wayne County softball this afternoon, right, at the Barbara Struckoff Field?
Man permitting. Everything got washed out yesterday for the Gold and White game.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was quite wet yesterday.
It's been wet all week. And they said DDA praying for good weather as well. They got their first Friday event this afternoon between 4 and 7 downtown. So we participate in that. Again, they ask that you go by the train depot, pick up your scorecard and the list of participating merchants, and it's a miniature golf thing this afternoon between 4 and 7 in downtown. The first Friday event, they're going to have those quarterly throughout the year. So, but the first one's set for today, right downtown Jesup. So.
Okay. Well, we do have that 60% chance of those showers this afternoon. High today of 88 degrees. And they do have a big yellow spot right over today and tonight for a flash flood warning for this afternoon and tonight. So, well, of course, you have that flash flood warning not only because of the rain that would come down this afternoon, possibly 60% chance, but also the ground is still very wet from this week, so there's nowhere for it to go. And if it does start raining, be careful as you go through areas where you see water. I still remember the time we had all that heavy rain, and it collected up under the train trestle there on North 1st Street, right down from Sybil's, and people tried to drive through it. The next thing you know, the water was up to the doors. So be careful as you're driving out there during this rain, and you see standing on some water in front of you. Be careful.
I know the Pine Forest Country Club can take a lot of water, but